Happening now, defending Baghdad. CNN is with Iraqi troops as they try to stave off ISIS militants closing in on the capital. Can the Iraqi army halt the terrorist onslaught? Life under ISIS, an exclusive look at the drastic and sometimes deadly changes the militants are bringing to the Iraqi towns they've seized. What do ordinary Iraqis have to do to survive? Rejected. Iraq's prime minister shuts the door on an idea of an emergency government. Was the Secretary of State John Kerry's mission to Baghdad this week a foreign policy flop? We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. The worst fears of many appear to be coming true. With new evidence, the crisis in Iraq is evolving into a broader regional conflict. Iraqi officials say Syrian warplanes carried out a cross-border attack on Iraqi towns, killing at least 57 Iraqi civilians, men, women, and children in Iraq, and injuring scores of others. This YouTube video allegedly shows victims' bodies being removed in a town near the Iraqi-Syrian border. On the Iraqi side, CNN cannot independently confirm the authenticity of this video. At the same time, a U.S. official tells CNN Iran, yes, Iran is flying surveillance drones over Iraq right now. And amid all of this, ISIS militants are moving closer and closer to Baghdad. That's the capital of Iraq. Our correspondents are covering all angles of the crisis on the ground in Iraq, as well as here in Washington. Let's begin with our senior international correspondent, Nick Robertson. He's joining us from Baghdad. Nick, tell our viewers what you're seeing.
Well, Wolf, over the last few weeks, the Iraqi army has had losses all over the country. Now the government says it is strategically withdrawing, retrenching and refocusing. And finally, after a lot of pushing, we got permission to go out with them to what they are saying is the front lines to get a look-see. They're not as tough as you might expect.
War is drawing closer to the Iraqi capital. And this aging tank is what's helping defend it. These soldiers in the rest of Al-Anbar province are just 35 kilometers, 22 miles from the center of Baghdad. After all their American training and the billions of US dollars in equipment, it's them and their Soviet T-54 tank that are now lined up to stop ISIS's advance. That tank round landed just by the trees on the horizon there. You can see the smoke rising right now. We're told there were snipers in the house there. That's how close ISIS is to the army front lines, just a few hundred meters. The army brought us here to a tiny Sunni village to show us a recent battlefield gain. They say they chased ISIS out 5 days ago. This is the tank commander, a Shia from south of Baghdad.
In the name of God, the fight here is good. So the terrorists cannot fight with us because they lose. They lose the battle with us, you know, because they're chicken, you know.
The chicken?
Yeah.
But in the north of the country, the army was the chicken.
No, the army is strong.
In the north of the country, some of the soldiers ran away, left their weapons. Are you afraid? You're the commander. Are you afraid you might turn around and you're
never afraid? I die in this country.
The soldiers dance for us, singing an anti-ISIS song. Part bravado, part media offensive, following a catastrophic collapse in the west and Mosul in the north. They want to change their loser's image. I can't say anything about Mosul. It's not my responsibility, the colonel in charge tells me. What happened there will not happen in Baghdad and will not happen here. The battle here lasted 5 hours, we are told. 32 ISIS killed, they say. 3 dead on the Iraqi side. On the storefronts in the now deserted Sunni village, fresh Shia graffiti. Even their rusting tank carries a Shia flag. The colonel in charge insists this is not a sectarian war. I ask if he wants US airstrikes. And do you want the US military advisors that are here? Can they help you? His answer is simple. It's not up to me. But my opinion, yes, I want the strikes. He may well do. Outside of this village, we see very few soldiers. And he left his expensive American Abrams tanks back at base to defend that should the need arise.
You know, we were driving around those fields and farms for quite a while, heading towards that front line, and the closer we got, the troops are really scattered. You get the idea, if the ISIS fighters had an idea about the back lanes there, they could penetrate the holes, never mind the heavy armor that's lined up there. It's a lot more porous than you imagine, Wolf.
Very disturbing. All right, Nick, thanks very much. Iraqis in cities across the north and the west of the country now find themselves living under ISIS rule, and for many of them, it's a very frightening and potentially deadly situation. Our senior international correspondent, Arwa Damon, joining us from Erbil in northern Iraq right now. What are you finding out there, Arwa?
Understanding of what life under ISIS is like because of the strict regulations that the group has been enforcing in these various areas. But video was smuggled out to us from Mosul that gives us an idea of what residents there are going through.
Crammed on top of a vehicle in the middle of an ISIS parade in Mosul, the children shout, Bakiye. Too young to understand the implications of the single word, which translates to mean, here to stay. It's the required response, as seen in this horrific video, to the statement, Islamic State. The prisoners, Iraqi border guards, later executed, accused of being Shia and working with the Maliki government. ISIS seems to be on a two-tiered campaign, releasing multiple videos with terrifying images of the fate of those who dare defy them, but also trying to depict themselves as forgiving protectors of the people. This video was posted to YouTube by the Islamic State in Nineveh, which urges people who stood against ISIS to repent. Even those that killed from our people, we will form a relationship with that person, if that person goes back to his relationship with God, the masked man states. Later seen embracing, pistol in hand, those who allegedly did. ISIS banned journalists and unauthorized filming, but this video shot in secret and exclusively provided to CNN shows one of the mosques where people can repent, later given a piece of paper, as seen in this man's hand, which clears them. ISIS is also distributing much-needed cooking gas to families, even selling it at a cheaper price than the Iraqi government used to. In a nation where the day-to-day basics are such a necessity for survival, acts like this do garner goodwill. But ISIS is also implementing its harsh interpretation of Islamic law, obligatory prayers for all, and banning women from movements outside their home without a male guardian.
And Wolf, we just also received more video that is of what was Mosul's entertainment district. This is a street that is lined with restaurants. It has an amusement park. Normally it would be packed with families, but now under ISIS, it has been transformed into one of the areas where they conduct their public preachings, and it is crawling with gunmen. We spoke to two men from Mosul who remember that area as being a place where they used to celebrate. It's filled with joyful memories for them. And for them to see images of it like this, they say it pains them in a way they cannot even begin to describe, Wolf.
Heartbreaking stories. Arwa, thanks very much. Arwa Damon in Erbil, northern Iraq. Still ahead, Iraq's sectarian ethnic seams are unraveling. They could be dividing the country actually into three. Would that end this increasingly deadly conflict? Plus, a huge blow to U.S. efforts to contain the crisis in Iraq. The Prime Minister of Iraq, Nouri al-Maliki, rejecting calls for an emergency government of national unity. Was John Kerry's Baghdad mission a failure? I'll ask the State Department Deputy Spokeswoman, Marie Harf. She's here walking into the Situation Room right now. Marie, welcome.
Thanks, Wolf.